So, James, it was a great interview today with Joey. I was really, I've heard a lot about Boomtown lately, but, to actually sit down and talk with him about what they can do. I mean, I'm just astounded at the breadth of
Yeah.
capabilities.
Yeah. It is. I think kind of big picture. It's like if you're struggling with integrated payments and the struggle is installation or support, you can outsource that to Boomtown. They do it all, and they do it all for this industry specifically.
Right.
And they're incredibly good at it. If you're a large organization and you need the software that has all the, hey, here's what you do in this situation for Clover or whatever.
Right.
So they've really just streamlined this, and they've recognized this is a big problem in our industry is, we're moving to integrated payments. I don't want to steal his thunder, but fantastic conversation. And then I followed that up by talking about opportunity cost,
which is a perfect segue to what we learned from Boomtown. So
I kind of talk about when do you outsource, when do you hire somebody, and just kind of talking about scaling the business and thinking about your time differently. And then Patty, you had a very interesting insider report today. Tell us about that a little bit.
Yeah. Apple has created its own buy now, pay later. James and I take a little look at the buy now, pay later market and what Apple's entree into this market means for us.
Yeah, and I will say, spoiler alert, I think it's good news for our industry.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, so check that out. So great stuff we have for you today. Of course, this episode sponsored by NMI. Go to nmi.com. Sponsored by NMI. We'll talk more about that after the interview here, but let's jump in and talk to Joey.
Let's go.
Welcome to the Merchant Sales Podcast.
Hey everybody, Patty and I are here today with my friend Joey Marzelli, and Joey is the co-founder and VP of Business Development for Boomtown. How you doing today, Joey?
Good, James. How you doing? Nice to see you.
Nice to see you,
Joey.
So,
you too, Patty.
I have really been looking forward to this conversation, Joey, because it's so interesting to me how many times I talk to an ICE or an agent, and we're having a conversation about a struggle that they're having as we move towards integrated payments. And I'm like, why don't you work with Boomtown? And they're like, who's Boomtown?
Right.
And I'm like, how do you not know who Boomtown is? So I'm really excited today. We're going to talk about integrated payments. We're going to talk about this shift that's happening in real time right now as ISOs and agents are trying to transition to integrated payments. There are these challenges that they are facing. And I think what you do, Joey, is like very specifically positioned to help with this transition. But before we dive into all that, give us a little bit of the backstory. How did you get into this crazy industry? How did you end up co-founding Boomtown? And give us a little bit of the Boomtown story, if you would.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, thank you, James and Patty, for having me. It's been a while. Absolutely love your podcast. I recommend it to everyone, especially who's just getting into payments and struggling on the sales side, or even an established company. You guys do a great job with your content.
Thank you.
So a little bit about my history. So I graduated in 2010. I was at the University of Colorado Boulder. I came over to California and I was working for Groupon product office, and Groupon was kind of peaking as a company and they were testing out payments. So I was going door to door in the Bay Area and I was selling Groupon payments, basically like payments on the cell phone. And through that experience, I was getting closer with my boss at the time, who was really enjoying the sales team and how well we were doing. We were actually doing a little bit better than we were expecting. And they acquired Breadcrumb POS. And then I was basically assigned to go sell Breadcrumb POS and we call the Breadcrumb payments across the US, mostly in San Francisco, Chicago, and New York. So I had a lot of experience, selling point of sale. I came from a merchant environment. My dad owned restaurants, my mom owned retail. So I understood the merchant environment. So I had a natural way of, just at least having conversations with merchants and understanding the sale. But I naturally saw that all these technology companies are changing rapidly and the merchant environment was staying the same. And you were seeing these Square, Revel, Toast, all, getting really, they're getting really big, building really big sales teams. And all these merchants were, obtaining this new technology, but they had no way to go implement it for them. They had no way to train them on it and no one to support it. And all these big fintech groups were all like, oh, it's plug and play. I remember hearing Clover say that it's plug and play. You don't need support. And that just wasn't the case for local businesses.
Right.
So Chip, our founder, Chip Kahn, he basically found me through my boss. And he brought this idea where his wife was also a merchant. He said, look, he's like, this problem is never going to stop. We should collaborate and build something to help local businesses succeed, especially with technology. So we built Boomtown. And the first thing we did with Boomtown is we built a platform where you could dispatch technicians nationwide. We still have that today. And you could outsource support to our team. And it was all, software first. So it was all, more tracking KPIs, success metrics, and just making sure that our partners and our merchants had really good visibility. Over time, by about 2017, we built our CXM platform, and that was a customer experience management platform that a lot of large banks, acquirers, fintech groups were using to drive a better experience for their customer. So one quick way to talk about what that means is, when you're a consumer in today's world, you have great experiences, right? You order Domino's, you get the pizza tracker, you see where it is, it arrives, you feel good about it. You order Uber, you know where it is. After the ride is done, it says, how was your experience? Rate it. It's why can't merchants have that experience, right? Traditionally, merchants, they buy a terminal from a bank, it arrives, they don't know who sent it to them, they don't know who to call. They call for support, they say, oh, talk to this group called Pfizer. You're like, who the hell's Pfizer? Like, who's thesis?
Right, that's not consulting.
Right, like these poor merchants don't know what's going on. So we're trying to make it really good visibility for everybody, create a better experience, use knowledge and automation to not eliminate human touch, but just get people information, as they need it. And so that's kind of what Boomtown is doing today.
Yeah, and I really like it too, because it's so interesting. I think everybody that's listening right now can resonate with this problem of, if it's an ISO, for instance, the agents don't want to sell point of sale. Yeah. Not because they don't believe it's the right thing. They all know it's the right thing. Everybody in the industry at this point, I don't think there's anybody out there slinging standalone terminals that's saying, this is what I should be doing right now because this is future-proofing my portfolio. Like, no one believes that. Right. But why is it that 70% of the sales are still standalone terminals? Maybe it's 60% now, but it's in that range. And the reason is because they don't want to install the point of sale system, because it's going to take them a day because they don't know what they're doing. And they know it's going to be a terrible experience for the merchant, and it's going to take away sales time. So I love the fact that you guys are basically solving this problem by kind of saying to the sales organizations, like, you're not good at this, so why don't you outsource it?
Absolutely.
So I love that. Okay, so I want to start by kind of zooming out a little bit here. So big picture, when we talk about this shift towards integrated payments, meaning, the little mom and pop shops, the medium size, even larger merchants, they're all kind of shifting away from just standalone payment processing to a situation where the payment processing is integrated with something: software, point of sale, smart terminal. So as somebody who's on the front lines with this, what are you seeing with that trend? Is it kind of steady? Is it accelerating? Like, where are you seeing this trend right now?
Yeah, I'm seeing a few different trends, but the big one I'm seeing is that you have to, especially like post-pandemic, you have to switch to at least having smart terminals in your product line and some kind of point of sale. So we'll talk more about how you can do that, but ultimately, merchants are getting more intelligent. They're using digital, features to their advantage, whether it be, mobile ordering, reservations, online ordering. They're using different mechanisms to drive their business, and merchants aren't going to, buy traditional terminals, right? And people are even using cash apps. I think cash apps, that's its own conversation, can be one of the biggest disturbing, factors of the payments industry in the future. Mm-hmm. But ultimately, what it comes down to is that you need intelligent terminals to drive a better experience, and same with point of sale. Now, for ISOs are better at selling smart terminals, and I've seen that, through really just straightforward data. But when it comes to point of sale, it's a mix. They can be good at it. They're some of them are really good at paying attention to the whole process and how you sell point of sale, and some try to throw it in the door and they get upset when they don't retain the merchant. So I think that the shift is there. It's happening rapidly with all of our partners. We support over 100 ISOs in banks, and we're seeing all of these guys shift to the smart terminal. But ultimately, the reason is to utilize more features in that ecosystem of third-party products that the merchant is using, right? They can't just go and say, here's a payment terminal and think they're going to win everyone's business, because these merchants they're using so many different, features and so many different pieces of software. Commonly it used to be like just home base, but now it's, home base, now it's like online ordering, now it's a Chowly, and then it's a reservation system, and they want it all integrated, right? And they want to all be speaking to each other, and they want to drive great data to kind of see where they stand, after using their terminal.
Yeah, I really like that. That's a good point. One of the things I think is so interesting that you brought up that I don't know that I've talked about on the podcast before, when you're selling point of sale, there is this risk at the beginning, right? And I don't talk about that very much because, the truth is, if you go past that and say, okay, once you have a happy merchant with a point of sale system that's using it, you have a very sticky account. But I think one of the risks is, if you sell somebody a Clover, to your point, and you go with the hands-off approach, the odds are you may not actually keep that merchant account for the 30 days. You know what I mean?
Oh
like
my gosh, yeah.
right?
I was almost kicked out of a first data conference because they said Clover isn't plug and play. I'm like, no, like you go into a deli and you tell the guy like, yeah, you go run your own your own Cat5 cable, to your kitchen printer. They're gonna be like, what? No, absolutely not. Like, no, right. Like you come install this for me. I'm not doing that.
Right. And even then, to me, the idea that you would go to the Clover app market, especially today with how many apps there are, and that you would the merchant would select the correct app, put it on there, and then understand how that works with the larger ecosystem of Clover and the other 3 apps they installed. It's like, no, that's not how that works. So, okay. So, all right. So, let's talk about, kind of zooming in a little bit. So there's no secret that our audience, the ISOs and agents, have really struggled with this. They've struggled with this process of saying, and again, to your point, I think it's more of there are certain ISOs that have kind of adjusted to it, and they are selling smart terminals, integrated payments almost exclusively, or for the most part. But then there are other ISOs that are still telling their agents, don't sell point of sale systems or anything like that, because it's going to take time away from prospecting. I mean, literally, I've heard this like in the last 12 months at several conferences. So talk to us about how, Boomtown and what you guys are doing. How are you able to help these ISOs and agents that are still stuck in the standalone terminal world? They see the benefit of integrated payments, but they still don't know what to do yet. What should they be doing, and how do we kind of solve this problem?
Yeah, so there's 2 answers here. The first one is a really simple answer where we have that smart terminal program of where you can come pay 1 minimum with Boomtown. You can sell. There's Point, there's Swipe Simple. There's going to be AV here soon. Advanced Mobile Payments has their new smart terminal that's going to have a Vivid Terminal on that as a new software. And it's great because you pay 1 minimum and you have someone already supporting it for you, so you don't have to turn around and go build a support team for it. You have sales support, operations support, and that's been a great, successful program that I've personally been running at the company. The other piece is you really gotta take the responsibility of selling POS if you want to sell POS, right? And some of these ISOs do really well at this. Like I have ISOs who actually are starting to kick butt at selling POS because they build a POS team. And what they admit to themselves is, yes, it's not plug and play. You have to build a process. You have to build a really good customer journey from start to finish, whether it's using a software or using your CRM to basically say, when this customer signs up, they got to feel like they've just invested in something great. They get over communicated with everything, whether it be, when their training is, when the hardware is going to arrive. They understand what the process is going to look like, and so Boomtown provides the on-site technicians. We provide that software that can help with the customer journey. The on-site technicians from Boomtown can do the, cabling, hardware setup, network setup. And then we have a W2 project manager look over all the technicians. So it's great because we'll record everything. We'll basically have all the notes there in our platform, and you can see everything that happened, whether you're super involved or not. But it's just, again, a part of that process. And once they get going, you can't just say, oh, we're only supporting the point of sale. And merchants, when they call in, they're going to have problems with different features of the point of sale, different parts of that ecosystem, whether it be the network, whether it be the hardware, whether it be the software or a third-party app maybe they're using on the software as well, right? And if they call your brand and your brand says, oh, sorry, we can't help you, you're not going to sell more to this group, right? If they're not going to go, oh, I want to buy more from you. You're wonderful. Right. They're going to go like, well, that sucks. I just bought from this bank or I just bought from this ISO, and they're telling me that I can't help you. So you need a good knowledge base. It doesn't mean you have to solve everything or be an expert on everything, but you should at least understand, how do I support this and where do I send the merchant in the case that something goes wrong, and make it a really good handoff. And it's not call this number, good luck. Make sure you're integrated with your ecosystem. Make sure you have really good communication channels with those third parties, that if you're going to take responsibility for driving a POS, you need to work on implementation, activation, and you really need to work on that experience past it. And it's difficult to set up, but again, once you do that, you'll see that it's not hard to retain these merchants, and it's not hard to go sell point of sale. Getting in the door and actually getting people interested in point of sale, from my own experience, is actually pretty straightforward. It's pretty easy. I remember going door to door, and merchants are typically willing to have a conversation with you if you catch them at the right time, right? But that's honestly where I see ISOs fail. They just don't take actual responsibility for selling point of sale. Smart terminal, it is more transactional. You can get away with it. You should still make sure they have a good activation and training so they understand the full purpose of it and how it works. But that's just kind of how I look at point of sale in the ISO and bank community.
Can I just follow up really quick on that? So you have actually technicians coast to coast, north to south, or are they on contract, or are they W? Go ahead.
Yeah, 1099 technicians. The benefit is that a W2 project manager looks over the whole job.
Okay.
they've been vetted, background checks. And by now, we started, 2013, we really have our, premier technicians. And then we use a few networks in the case if it's a really remote area, but we can get basically the whole US, same day, next day in metropolitan areas. Yeah, if we're out in El Paso, Texas, or somewhere a little, we have 1 or 2 technicians, which means that if there's, they're busy that day, you might not be able to get them until, schedule 7 days out is, anywhere in the nation for Boomtown. Okay,
cool. So let's zero in on the local ISO. Maybe they're selling, 10, 20 deals a month, and they want to make that shift to selling better solutions.
Yeah.
What are some of the challenges that you've seen these folks facing, and how does Boomtown work with them to overcome those challenges?
I see these challenges every day. I actually get, inbound. I probably get 2-3 small ISOs a day that hit my email, and I'm always trying to help out. But the one thing I always find so funny is they say, I don't want to pay minimums. I don't want to do any of that, but I want to sell these new products. And it's like, well, who are you working with? And they tell me like 2-3 acquirers. And I'm like, well, what products are they selling? Well, they don't really have products. I'm like, well, then why are you working with these acquirers, right? Like, why are you working with acquirers that are providing great products to you and helping you? And so I always think that's really funny that, so many of these groups are still working with these traditional acquirers that are so old school. It's like, guys, like there are so many great ISOs out there that have, wonderful solutions. You have, Payrock now it's selling Quantic, and you have, Maverick and Vivid. They have a whole, they're selling, 3 different POS, 3 different smart terminals, and they have really good support and implementation for it and great experience. It's like, why aren't you just looking a little bit outside the borders and saying, these groups are great. They have so many different, capabilities. Why am I stuck with this traditional acquirer? So that's one thing that I think people just need to think more holistically about, is just who are you working with and who could you be working with? How we help them out is, again, that smart terminal program where they can come and, a small minimum, and they can sell, multiple products, and they don't have to go build a support team behind them or a sales team behind them. We give them the sales support. We, give them what they need. And if they're like a small, medium ISO, a lot of those groups will outsource all of their support to us so they can focus on sales, retention. And then we do 24/7 white label support, and all common products. So if they're selling Pax, Deja Vu, maybe they're selling the Swipe Simple, smart terminal, and maybe they're selling Clover, all ISOs, have a few different gateways, a few different terminals. So we support over about 40 solutions today from a 24/7 perspective, and that's all onshore. And so that's really great to help them grow. And then, from there, we have a lot of different capabilities, obviously, to keep them going.
Hey, one thing I wanted to interject here. So I want to go back for 1 second to what you were talking about of, choosing the right acquirer or ISO that has solutions. So one of the other things I think is such an interesting part, and I'm sure you hear this all the time, Joey, is that agents don't seem to understand that in this industry, you pay for support through residual.
Yeah.
Right. So there's no fee. It's not like, you mentioned like a Payrock or a Vivid, or Maverick. It's not like you go to one of these companies and they say, well, yeah, we actually work with Boomtown and we have all these solutions that we support. And so you pay us, $500 a month for your, no, it doesn't work like that. It's just that instead of getting a certain residual split, you're going to get maybe 10% less. And so I think it's really important that people, as we're making this shift, that we have to understand that, if all your acquirer is doing is offering payment processing on standalone terminals, providing horrible support to you and your merchant, and doing price increases every 6 months, they can give you a pretty high split because they suck.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but
it's not going to last forever.
They're not offering anything. So it doesn't cost them anything. You're free, to them from a cash flow perspective.
Yeah,
it's
they don't care.
Right.
Exactly.
Whereas when some of these other people, these other companies, when they bring an agent on, it's like, wow, we have somebody else that's going to be selling systems that we have to finance. We have somebody else that's going to be selling systems that we have to pay Boomtown to support. We have somebody else selling systems. There are costs associated with this transition to integrated payments. Integrated payments is different. So it's better. It's massively better. And the lifetime value, it's would you rather get, 80% for 22 months, or would you rather get 70% for 64 months?
Great. And start at 70% and work your way up. And all these guys have scales, right? But I always laugh when someone's like, Well, we have a direct relationship with TSYS. It's like, congratulations, you still have no products to sell. I don't know what you want me to like clap for you. It just sounds like you're still struggling. And I don't know. I find it pretty comical because I get it daily. I mean, I literally get it daily. I introduce them to other ISOs and like, well, I don't want to work with those guys. I already have a relationship with X, Y, and Z, and they don't provide me any solutions, but I'm really dedicated to them. It's like, what are you doing? Like,
well, and I think to be fair too, some of these companies that are higher up, like you mentioned, TSYS, they're not really designed to do this. Now you can process through TSYS, but you probably want to go down one level and find an ISO 100%. That offers TSYS and it provides all the solutions and support. And I think that's the thing is in this industry, everybody, it's like a natural thing of like, I got to get to the top rung. I want to be direct. It's like, you don't want to be direct unless you've got, unless you're doing 300 deals a month.
Totally.
Right. And you've got like millions of dollars in capital.
They're not going to build a team around you unless you are doing that. They don't, it's not like they don't care about you, but again, it's trained.
That's not what they do.
Exactly.
Right. Anyway, Patty, go ahead. I kind of cut in on your question.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Great conversation, guys. Because I think that's a really important point. So, and it kind of leads into to another question I had, which is, as the ISO grows, it becomes a wholesale ISO. They're going to need to take on a lot more responsibility, in terms of ongoing support of resellers, and affiliates and so forth. What are some of the challenges that you see these guys facing, especially in terms of deployment and support as they continue to scale?
Yeah, so like we talked about earlier, they're going to take on more complex products. So they have to provide services to really, achieve what they want on those products. They want better visibility at that stage too. So, we use our CXM FinTech connectors where we integrate to their CRM. So every time they create a merchant, it goes right into our CXM and that merchant's automatically supported. It's relevant. It's white labeled. It's not like they're seeing it for the first time. And many of our, mid-sized partners are either outsourcing all their support to us or using our software to support their merchants, right? Because they get that visibility, they get the integrations to their CRM, they get to start building kind of customer journeys. But on that mid-size ISO, like the wholesale ISO, they are more intelligent, right? They have typically their own native platform or they're using like a Salesforce, HubSpot, Iris, and they really want to, start driving a better experience on, not just a traditional terminal, but the smart terminal, whether it be a gateway merchant and a point of sale. But they also, the biggest thing in that stage is they want to drive their brand, right? They really want to start focusing on how do I drive my brand? So I want to make sure the whole thing's white labeled from start to finish. And, when they go into the merchant dashboard, that's white labeled. And there's not this like, who am I working with? Because they want to get to that next step. And the only way to do that is drive more confidence from these merchants in their brand. So, a lot of our partners will also, if they have their own proprietary product, which I see a lot of, these groups starting to come out with, or they have their own gateway, what they'll typically do is do their own tier 1 support for that. But the cool thing about Boomtown is you can kind of choose modules of what you want. And maybe they'll outsource all the common products to us. So every single time someone calls in again for a PAX, a Deja Vu, a Verifone, goes right to our team where, their proprietary gateway goes right to their team. And they can use that in their IVR and we can set up different ways to achieve that. But that's a really responsible way now of basically saying, we're still going to sell multiple solutions. We're going to be really good at supporting our proprietary solution or our gateway or our dashboard. But when it comes to these common products, Boomtown's going to white label it, and they're the experts on supporting that.
I like that.
I like that. Yeah.
You know what else is interesting to me about that is it's so funny having this conversation and kind of this progression, because ironically at this stage, it might make sense to go direct with somebody, right? Because now you're providing a lot of times your own support, your own billing, all of that. And so now you do want to get the highest possible financial reward because you're doing all the work. But then the question to me becomes opportunity cost, right?
Yeah,
so do you really want to hire that $70,000 a year employee to just support your Clover devices?
Yeah.
Right.
I do this math all day for people, and sometimes it's funny when it just doesn't make sense for them. They're just like, well, we don't want to pay for support. It's like, well, good luck. Build a team of 5 people in the US and see how it goes, because we'll be a quarter of the cost of that. Right. And we're 24/7 too. And people don't, they underestimate how, expensive it is to have a 24/7 team. Yeah. Especially when it's just for your group. We can do it because we have, let's say, 100 different ISOs and banks and, about, 30 different ISVs using us, right? So, and then we have these large acquirers that we'll talk about in a little bit, but they're all utilizing us, and they're using us again, whether it be just the software having to support a few solutions, or actually having to support their full portfolio. And some of these groups, the bigger ones, they'll actually have us do like even customer service for them. So we'll do not just technical support, but the customer service. We have, the resources to do it. Of course, it's more expensive and there's
Right.
It's a larger agreement, but there's no limitation of what we can't do. And we've done everything from rollouts of, massive, brands being like 250 location QSRs to, even just doing installs in stadiums, to actually supporting, massive brands as well. And when these groups bring on massive brands, they don't have the support team to go and close them and give them confidence. It'll say, hey, we have Boomtown, they have this national presence, and they have support 24/7, and they're experts on X, Y, and Z. Here's how they can, support you. And so we help them actually close large brands, which is pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
And that's been, we did that with a large POS recently. And that was, that's great to see.
Yeah, I had an interesting debate. Actually, I just remembered it. You would have probably enjoyed the other day because I brought up Boomtown. But I was talking to a wholesale ISO. Well, they're in the process of becoming a wholesale ISO, and I was talking to them about this issue. And they're like, "Yeah, we're going to build out. We got investors. We're going to build out support. Da. And I was like, "Why are you going to do that? Like, why wouldn't you outsource this?" And they're like, "No, like,
investors."
yeah." And they're like, "The whole reason that we did all this is to have complete control of the experience." And I said, well, why does that matter if you have complete control if you do a bad job?
Right.
Yeah. That's such a good point. I love that.
Like all of a sudden
I do that. And they always say, oh, no, our customer service is so good. I'm like, look, at the end of the day, customer service is customer service. Like we really focus heavily on, again, those success metrics, those KPIs, and helping people improve their NPS score. It's one of the first questions we ask, what's your NPS score? Let's get to the next step. But the truth is, it's just like at the end of the day, it's super expensive. So I understand you want to build your own support team for your own proprietary product. I actually have a lot of respect for that. Yeah. Especially if you're maybe just doing tier 1 or tier 2. But when you're like, I want to go support the entire ecosystem of a merchant's technology suite and layout, and I want to support 3 different terminals that aren't ours, 2 different gateways and point of sale. And if you want to go do that and your investors are happy with that, it's their money. Good luck. I'm not gonna invest in you
because it's insane the amount of variation. If you just say like, totally, if you just say we're gonna offer Zuza, Clover, and Quantic.
Yeah, good luck.
Like, are you kidding me? I mean, you're gonna need 17 people. Like, it's crazy. Like,
I was sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just saying, and then it's always funny because then they email me when something goes wrong, as if like we have this relationship because we talked about support once. Like, hey, Joey, I got a Clover merchant that needs some help right now. It's like I can't tell you. Well, I can't really say what I want to say to you, but good luck.
Yeah, right.
I don't know what to tell you, bud. I feel great. Good luck with your Clover merchant. It's.
Well, let's touch real quick on the big ones. You've kind of already alluded to it, but the enterprise level, you talked about Payrox and these others that are obviously really, really large, doing 50 billion a year, that kind of thing. Talk a little bit about that. How do you work with them? What are kind of the differences or challenges they face?
Yeah, so some of them you will utilize our services. They'll outsource some support to us, especially for what I talked about, like the common products. But groups like Fortis, Paya, Stacks, Merchant E, Rectangle Health, like these large groups that are, some of them are public companies. They're using our software. So what they have decided is, they probably already have a team, and again, they'll utilize some of our team, but they're focused on customer journey. So they're taking it the next step. They want to be a big brand. They have a lot of complexity with the different products they have. They have many different channels because they're obviously usually acquiring a bunch of groups, and they're bringing these brands together, and they want visibility into every brand, and they want, connectors to every CRM. So it's a project, but we have this whole boarding and success team that basically help them map out, how they can, achieve their goals and really drive their brand against all the groups that they've acquired and just organize the chaos. Right. And so our CXM is really good for that. Like, let's make a unified customer journey that, if someone signs up, like if you're still working with maybe TSYS and Fiserv and WorldPay, but if someone signs up, it's the same journey every single time. It's not this like, I have to go and like, oh, wait, guys, that's a WorldPay merchant. Make sure they do this, and this, or that's a Fiserv merchant. Make sure they do this, and this. It's the same journey every time. And when they get support, it feels like the same journey. The branding is all there. And that's what we really focus on with those acquiring groups. And we do it with a lot of banks too, like KeyBank and a lot of, these large commercial banks. We help them achieve the same thing because they know that if you're going to compete against, again, what's coming down the road, right? The Squares, the PayPals, the SoFis, like these big fintech groups that are all working with, you got Citibank working, I think it's with Google, and you got all these different groups. Like they're coming up with their own plan, right? And whether you think they're coming for you or not, they're definitely coming for your merchant. Don't, don't think for one second, Apple's not doing the same thing. So these groups know that, they're intelligent enough to know that. So they're really building out a good action plan on how they're going to compete and how they're going to stay relevant and just drive great experiences.
Love it. Love it. Well, Joey, I'm sure we could keep going here for another hour. I have a lot more things we could talk about, but we'll save that for another episode. This has been so interesting, so much insight. I know a lot of people are going to want to reach out. Where would you send them to learn more about Boomtown?
If you're looking for more of the service side, go to, just email me, which I just do joey@goboomtown.com. Same with the smart terminals. If you have any questions or you just need some advice on where you maybe stand in the whole payments world or how I can help, very happy to help. I do it daily for a lot of groups. And then if you're interested in our software, definitely check out our website, goboomtown.com, and then you'll see our whole CXM platform and how that works. You can reach out to the website or just email me again at joey@goboomtown.com. But awesome. James, thanks so much. And Patty, this has been great. Love always catching up with you guys. It's been too long, and I really appreciate you having me.
Hey, it was great talking with you. You learned a lot, actually. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks, Joey. So, Patty, I'm super excited today to announce our new sponsor. I guess I should say our returning sponsor.
Returning, correct.
Which is NMI.com. However, NMI also, of course, now owns Iris, which is the leading CRM.
Right.
So our audience, you're going to be getting a real treat here over the next, year as we work with the sponsor to educate you on NMI and what they're doing and Iris and what they are doing. Yeah. So I just want to give everybody, really high level today.
Okay.
Of both companies, and then give you the URLs. Go check them out if you haven't already. Okay. NMI is the leading gateway provider that is white labeled, meaning your brand is what's promoted to the merchant. So you're kind of building out your own gateway solution by not building a gateway. You just use NMI's and brand it. And they are processor agnostic.
Right.
So most of you listening to this podcast right now, you may or may not realize it, but you probably have the ability to offer NMI. So talk to your ISO, talk to your acquirer, find out if they offer NMI. If not, tell them why not, get them to offer NMI, because there are a lot of merchants out there that are doing recurring billing, that need a virtual terminal, card not present, email invoicing, all of these things, even trying to go after technology companies that need a gateway to integrate with your solution. NMI is really just the undisputed leader in this particular market. So nmi.com is the website to go to for NMI. We'll have our own little link next week, but I want to give you just a regular one today. So go to NMI, Nancy, Mary, Indigo, nmi.com, and check them out. Then NMI recently acquired Iris.
Big news there.
Big news. And Iris is actually one of my personal kind of favorite companies out there. I've done a lot of work with them. I've integrated our statement analysis service into it. So what is Iris? Well, Iris is the leading CRM or customer relationship management software for the payment processing industry. And they handle things like billing, where you can give your merchants a branded dashboard. They handle residuals, where you can do residual reporting for your agents. They do lead management. So if you're thinking, we're thinking about going Salesforce, we're thinking about going Zoho, we're thinking about doing this or that, don't do that until you check out Iris, because in my experience, the cost is going to be pretty similar, but the difference is it's been built specifically for our industry.
For our industry. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah. And it's massive. Like, they have so many companies that work with them. I would really encourage you, if you haven't done so already, even if you have a small ISO, you're saying, I talked to somebody the other day. Actually, no, I didn't talk to him. It was Jerron, actually, in our Facebook group.
Okay. Made
a post, maybe it was him, I can't remember, but made a post there, and he has a few employees and agents, and he said something to the effect of, wow, the Iris CRM is an investment, but I'll tell you what, it sure is worth it, And the idea is, it's like, when you make an investment in software like that, it is incredible. Talking about opportunity cost in this episode. So we're about to talk about that right after this commercial. So you really, really, really need to think about something like an Iris to help you with opportunity cost. They, again, processor agnostic, so they can automatically pull in residual data, merchant data, volume data. It's just amazing, all the things that they can do.
Everything at your fingertips on one dashboard.
Right. And of course, the main reason people go with Iris these days, Patty, is because it's integrated with getisoamp.com.
Of course.
Yeah, so if you want to do statement analysis, there you go. Getisoamp.com. I'll put my plug in there as well. But anyway, go to iriscrm.com. So it's iriscrm.com. All one word there, iriscrm, iriscrm.com. Click on schedule a demo or watch their video. But I love they have the perfect visual on their homepage. I'm looking at it right now. I just want to pull it up. But it kind of shows Iris CRM and NMI company in the middle. And then around it, you have Fiserv, PaySafe, Priority, WorldPay, Elevon, TSYS, all feeding data in.
All the big ones feeding in.
Yeah. And of course, there's many, many more, but that's an interesting kind of graphic of what they do is that they pull data in from all these companies automatically so that you just get to benefit from all this data. And so do your merchants.
And it's so much easier than trying to do your own CRM. I mean,
yeah. And I mean, again, even if you go say Salesforce or something else, you still have to set up all these integrations. It's a pain in the neck. Opportunity cost.
And your point that it's something that's built for this industry.
Exactly.
Salesforce is used by so many different industries. It's sort of like it's a nice universal piece, but for industries that don't necessarily have their own CRM solution.
Right.
But Iris is the optimum solution for our industry, I believe.
It is. So Patty and I are very excited. We appreciate all of you that are listening, loyally listening every week. You are the reason we're able to get these top brands to sponsor us.
Yes.
These are really two of just the top processor agnostic brands in the industry. Iris and NMI, and of course now they've joined forces. So that's our sponsor. Definitely go to nmi.com and iriscrm.com. Check out both companies. If you're not working with them, maybe you have them available, but you're not really leveraging them to the full extent. Take some time to do that. Make sure to reach out to them and say, hey, I heard about you on the Merchant Sales Podcast. We would appreciate that. So again, thank you so much to our sponsors. We appreciate them, and we appreciate you for listening.
And now, here is Questions from the Field with James Shepard.
Hey, everybody. So today in Questions from the Field, I want to kind of continue the conversation a little bit that we just had with Joey, but I want to talk about opportunity cost. Because this is something that I think about so much. And I really believe it's one of the most difficult things for especially the individual agent that's starting to scale up to understand. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
So here's what you have to do. Let's say you're an individual agent, you're bringing in, 5,000 a month, 10,000 a month, 15,000 a month, whatever it is. In your mind, when you think about your time and when you think about your mental energy, your emotional energy, and kind of what you do with your day, it all kind of blends together. Sure. Meaning you feel like there's this thing I do and it makes me 15,000 a month.
Right.
Well, that's not true. Okay. There's actually very few things that you do that make you $15,000 a month. Okay. In actuality, there are different things that you're doing that are impacting your income and your results in different ways, right? Mm-hmm. There are things that you do that are more valuable or more differentiated than others, right? So think of it in this way. If I had to hire somebody to do everything that I do, and I was going to leave on vacation for 3 months, and when I got back, I want my portfolio to have grown, right? How much would that cost? Well, probably 100
for the labor.
Well, it probably cost you $150,000 a year to find somebody that could jump in and do that. Sure. I mean, you have to find another merchant services sales professional that's just as good as you, hire them and get them to stop doing what they're doing to come work for you.
Right.
That would be very hard, right?
Very hard.
So, but when you break it down and say, well, wait a minute. Okay, hold on. So I'm actually doing a lot of different things. One of the things that I do is I install credit card machines and point of sale systems. Mm-hmm. Now, how much would it cost to get that outsourced, right? Well, you have Boomtown if you're a little bit bigger, or your ISO provides that. But you could say, well, if I went to my local computer shop and I visited all my local computer shops and said, hey, would you like some extra work? Right? Well, maybe for $30 an hour, maybe they would go ahead and do my installation. So now the question becomes, is there something else that you could do with that time that's more valuable than $30 an hour?
Right.
Then you talk about customer support. You talk about setting up your schedule, right? All these different various things. And as you break down what you do, which I'm going to give you a specific tip in a second of how to do that, you're going to start to realize, wait a second, actually the only thing I do that really matters is closing people.
Yes, right. Because that's where the money comes from.
Right. And it's not that that's the only thing that matters. I'm saying it's the only thing you do that matters.
Right.
Somebody has to do it because it does matter, but not you. And when you realize that as an entrepreneur and you change from being a sales representative to an entrepreneur, if you ask, people say, what's an entrepreneur? Here I have 4 businesses, plotting the 5th one right now, what's an entrepreneur? And most people will say it's a risk taker. Wrong. Entrepreneurs hate risk. I hate risk with a passion.
Right.
Okay.
So yeah.
Entrepreneurs are all about risk avoidance. We spend our life surviving. You know what I mean?
Right.
And making sure that we don't die and our businesses don't die as a result of all these things that we're doing. So it's not about that. It's about opportunity cost. It is about an entrepreneur that's growing is ruthless and relentless at looking at every second of their day and saying, what is the opportunity cost? In other words, anything you're doing, you could be doing something else.
Right. And how much more is that? What's the return on that other thing going to be?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the opportunity cost is whatever you're doing, if there's something else you could be doing that would be making you more money or more productive or better relationships or whatever it is in any area of your life, that is a cost to you. That's a kind of a behind the scenes cost. Most sales representatives I talk to have millions of dollars in opportunity cost. And what I mean by that is they are, I talk to these agents that are so good at closing merchant accounts.
Right.
They spend 80% or 90% of their time not closing merchant accounts.
Really? That much?
Absolutely. Because they spend so much time on admin. They spend so much time being unproductive because they don't have anybody doing their schedule. And let's face it, if you're a top salesperson and you're good at doing your own schedule, God bless you. I don't know what kind of DNA you got, but just know that you're like a unicorn. Okay. I'm a really good sales representative. And if I didn't have somebody I actually have 2 people now that do my schedule. If I did not have people doing my schedule, I don't really know what I would get done. I probably just wander around the office all day talking to people, or I don't know, learning something new, reading a book. That's what I would do. But instead I have to be intentional and say, wait a second, what do I want to accomplish with my day? And I know I'm not going to take the time to break that down into a schedule. Right. And so I have, Angela and Khalil right now that work with me on that, on my team. And it's like, when I start my day out, it's like, I have my schedule. I know exactly what I'm doing for my day. I know exactly how my time is being split up. So you need these people, if you're a salesperson and even if you're still cold calling, right? Now, this one's a little tricky because some of you are so good at cold calling that it does actually make sense to continue. But understand the idea of, filtering and finding people who are interested is something you can outsource. At the peak when I was selling, I actually, at one point I had 3 people who one of them was on the phone, 2 of them went in the field, and I gave them this kind of survey pitch, and they would go out and just do like a survey. Hey, I'm with James Shepherd. He's got a local office in town here. Had just a quick 60-second survey for you to see if there'd be something we could work together on. Do you have 60 seconds? And they would do this survey. And at the end, if the person answered the questions the way I wanted, they'd say, great. Well, I don't know if you know James. He's really well respected in the community. Been doing this for a long time, blah, 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 blah. Here's some information on him. I know he would love to swing by and just spend 15 minutes to get to know you. What's a good time? And they were just setting up these things for me. Right.
Wow. Yeah, cool.
And then I'd have the person on the phone call back and confirm the appointment and all that.
Right.
And so, all of a sudden selling 20 accounts a month, which to most agents sounds like insane, ridiculous idea. Cause they're like, what do you mean I closed 4 or 5? But think about this. If the only thing, imagine if this is your day, imagine if you woke up in the morning, by 9 o'clock, you were sitting in front of a qualified merchant who was expecting you to arrive. And imagine if you did that every day for 3 to 4 hours, back to back to back to back to back. Do you think you could sell one of them? If you could, that's 20 a month. And that's why I was doing 20 to 30 a month really consistently, because that's what I did. Every day I was going out, I'm having 3, 4, 5 solid meetings. I'm sitting down because I'd outsourced the prospecting.
Right.
So anyway, really quickly, let me give you the tip on it. Here's what you need to do. Okay. Step number 1, track your time for 1 week. Track your time for 1 week. Carry a little notebook with you. Use your phone. There's tons of apps you can do this on. Just every hour, look back and put a thing in there. How many minutes did you spend on everything? It's not exactly as much about which exact time. It's about the number of minutes you spent on each thing.
Right.
at the end of the week, total it up and see how you're spending your time. How much time are you spending prospecting? How much time are you spending closing? How much time are you spending installing admin? How much time are you spending watching Netflix? How much time are you spending one-on-one with your children? How much time are you spending one-on-one with your spouse? Right? So break these things down. How much time are you spending on your church or nonprofit or whatever else you're passionate about, your bowling league, right? And look at this list and just kind of ask yourself, okay, does this accurately represent what I think is important? And then secondly, ask yourself, when I look at any of these things that I did, is there an opportunity cost? Meaning, is there something else I should have been doing with that time that would have been more productive? And then once that's done, then you know what you're doing, write your list of what you're doing, and then rank each item based on 2 criteria. Are you good at it? Meaning, are you great at it? Like, is this a core competency? You're really, really good at doing your schedule. You're fantastic at prospecting. You're a tech wizard at installing whatever. Are you great at it? Right? And do you like it? And when you delegate, don't worry about if you like it. Start with the things you're not great at and delegate those. Then when you delegate the things you're worst at, then look at the things you're pretty good at, but you don't really like doing it. Then you delegate for more just personal enjoyment to say, I don't really want to do that anymore. As an example, I did my own taxes for my business for like the first 4 or 5 years. I'm really good at doing taxes. I absolutely hate it.
Same here.
I now have someone else that does that for me because I don't like to do it. So you get the idea.
I did that a few years ago. It was like, wait a minute, I'm spending all this time. I love doing it, but I'm spending so much time where I could be making money.
There you go.
Why am I doing that?
There you go. Opportunity cost, right? Yep. So there you go. There's my my tip for the day.
Great. Thanks, James.
This is the Insider's Report with Patti Murphy.
Well, to the growing number of companies offering buy now, pay later, you can add Apple.
Yeah, I heard about this.
Yeah. Apple Pay Later, it's called. It's among the latest features to the latest iPhone that they just released.
Yep.
It allows consumers to spread out the cost of purchases for equal payments over 6 weeks with 0 interest, no fees, which is the standard sort of buy now, pay later approach.
Right.
And it's interesting, though, because within days of Apple's buy now, pay later news, PayPal announced its latest BNPL plan.
Yeah, I saw that too. Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
PayPal Pay Monthly. Obviously, the terms, include monthly payments. It's for purchases between $200 and $10,000. And the terms range between 6 and 24 months.
Okay.
The annual percentage rate ranges from 0 to 22.99.
Wow.
Yeah. I was shocked at that. You might as well use your credit card.
Right.
So with just a little background, worldwide, buy now, pay later sales totaled about 120 billion last year, according to the research firm Global Data. And it's projected to reach 214 billion this year, 300 billion next year.
And I think those numbers are probably soft because
I think so too.
At the time that those were made, I doubt Apple had rolled theirs out.
And that was exactly what I was going to say, because that data was probably, it was published this month being June.
Right.
But that they had to do all the analysis, for months before that. So it's probably based on 2021 data.
Right.
But here's another interesting thing. It's a new report from the Federal Reserve Bank of Philadelphia, which suggests that although buy now, pay later is gaining steam, usage is, quote, largely experimental, which I can kind of see that.
Okay.
I know people that are using it and they're just kind of using it to see how it works. I could see that. They did a survey of just over 2,000 people. It was fielded late last year. They found about 3 in 10, 31% had conducted one or more buy now, pay later transactions over the previous 12 months. By comparison, 92.2% had used credit cards and 87% had used debit cards in the previous 12 months.
Right.
Buy now, pay later users, though, were less satisfied than credit card and debit card users. And even those reporting using P2P payments for merchants were more satisfied. just over 2/3 of buy now, pay later users reported high satisfaction with the product, compared to 81% of credit card users, 75%, and 75% of debit and P2P users who reported high satisfaction. And only about half of the buy now, pay later users said they were likely to use the product in the future. A couple other statistics. The Philadelphia Fed survey suggests buy now, pay later is especially popular among lower income consumers, those earning less than $75,000. Separately, last night I was just tooling around. Of course, I always am online looking for interesting data and reports.
Sure.
Harvard Business School did a study.
Yeah.
Found 57% of buy now, pay later borrowers earn less than 50 grand.
Mm-hmm.
And that same study revealed that 1 in 3 buy now, pay later customers have fallen behind on at least one payment.
Yeah.
So this is just a little quote from the Harvard study. The size and rapid growth of the buy now, pay later market, and the fact that buy now, pay later has not yet gone through a credit cycle, makes some oversight all the more important to prevent a mini crisis, especially in such an uncertain economic environment.
Interesting.
Yeah, interesting. And I should add here that I also found that in the UK, they've just proposed rules on buy now, pay later, requiring certain disclosures, how it can be advertised, et cetera, which is kind of sort of what the CFPB is here in the US has been inferring, although they haven't done it yet.
So one of the things I'm really curious about, Patty, you probably don't know the answer to this yet. I wasn't able to quite figure it out. So the way Apple is doing their buy now, pay later is through kind of Apple Pay.
Right.
That same experience, I guess.
Right.
And it's kind of like a different payment method, I guess.
Right.
But my question is, to our industry, what does that mean exactly? In other words, if a merchant's processing $100 through Apple Pay right now, I know I'm going to get my same residual. There's interchange, there's markup, there's, you know what I mean?
Right.
What is their buy now, pay later exactly? Is it the same way? Is it taking revenue away from our industry? I wasn't quite clear on exactly how that would work.
Yeah, my feeling is that it's not necessarily taking money away from our industry. My feeling is, and just in reading their blog post and so forth, is that it's really sort of an add-on for people who are already using Apple Pay. Well, right. But what I'm saying is it's interesting though, because with Apple Pay, the way it actually works behind the scenes is that, when okay, let's say for me, Apple Pay, I have my Capital One MasterCard attached to Apple Pay, right? Right.
Well, when I go and use Apple Pay at a merchant location, when that merchant gets their statement, the interchange table is going to say MasterCard, whatever. It's not going to say Apple Pay. Apple Pay is just a technology. I see what you're saying now. Is that, So if it's buy now, pay later, what does that mean? How does that show up on the statement? Does it, because I'm sure that they want broad acceptance. I think it's going to show up as a MasterCard transaction, though, because they said that they're going to be processing through the MasterCard network. Oh, I didn't see that. Yes. Okay. They will be processing through the MasterCard network. Okay. So then they'll probably there's different interchange types that they could use for that. Yes. But that's probably what's going to happen. Okay. Well, that answers my question. I was just curious. And I mean, if that's the case, that actually could end up being a big positive for merchants. Agreed. Because they would get all the revenue up front, and then Apple would be responsible for collecting it down the road. So that could work. That's interesting. Okay. Yeah. I was just curious about that. So hopefully that's the case. Maybe we'll do a little more research on that. No, we'll definitely do some more research. But I did in the analysis, in their blog post, they did note the MasterCard network. I didn't see that. That's good to know then. So maybe that'll be a big. I was just hoping it wasn't going to be a negative, but that's good. Maybe it'll be actually a positive. So, a positive or a wash. Right. Or a wash. Right. Good stuff, Patty. Well, thanks for keeping us up to date on that stuff. Sure thing, James. Thanks.
Thank you for listening to the Merchant Sales Podcast. Whether you are an industry veteran, processing executive, or just trying to learn about the payment space, we appreciate your time. The Merchant Sales Podcast is a joint production of Greensheet.com and ccsalespro.com, and we hope you will tune in next week for more information and tips on building your merchant services business.